Thank you for accepting me to replace Peter Weber, who is really sorry that he cannot be here today, but he had to go urgently back to Germany. He was in Brussels actually yesterday, so this is life as it happens sometimes. Audiovisual rules in Europe have always reflected the very specific nature of audiovisual media programs, which shape public opinion and reflect societal values. The objectives of European policy in this field are still relevant. We have had them for many, many years. They include informed citizenship, the protection of minors from harmful content, the promotion of European and domestic programs, to name just a few. But what has changed, and we know this of course, is how these objectives are met in the converging digital media environment. In the traditional TV environment with terrestrial or satellite transmission, the viewer can directly access the broadcaster's programs without having to go through any intermediary. In the converging environment, there are more and more intermediaries and platforms between the broadcaster and the viewer or user that are not always neutral, but that select, assemble content, choose the form of presentation, and navigate users through their platforms. Public service media organizations in the EU invest more than 16 billion euros in content every year, and actually 84% of this content is original content. This content reaches 60% of Europeans every week through traditional public service television channels, and we think that the review of the relevant single market policies offers an opportunity to also ensure that valuable content for society is prominently displayed and easily found where citizens go to get audiovisual programs online. One of the main objectives of audiovisual rules must be to ensure that citizens continue to enjoy a diverse and pluralistic European content offer, when possible also across border. There are a number of different elements which play a role in this context, and I will address briefly three of them. One is the access and prominence rules. Number two, the role of video sharing platforms and social media. And number three, cross-border access to content. So now to my first point, access and prominence. With increased convergence and vertical consolidation in the sector, there is a risk that operators will be inclined to draw audiences towards content that suits their commercial interests. This would be to the detriment of citizens' ability to easily access and content of public value. Now the directive, the Audiovisual Media Services Directive, needs to give member states the possibility to address this and to address access to and appropriate prominence of content of public value, and of course we would include the content of public service broadcasters here. We appreciate that the Commission proposes to recognize the Member States' competence in this respect, and we welcome very much that the two rapporteurs propose to even strengthen the provision. The fact that the Audiovisual Media Services Directive maintains specific media regulation in the digital world is of course extremely important, but we also think that media regulation is not sufficient in this context. The new telecom package also has to support access and prominence. In this respect, we appreciate that after a first analysis of the new package, it seems that the existing access rules and that the important must-carry rules are being maintained. Now to my second point, video sharing platforms and social media. Video sharing platforms and social media are increasingly important for the everyday life, and not only for young people. Also, public service media offer programs on these platforms as an important means to reach their audiences. Obviously, video sharing platforms cannot be regulated like audiovisual media service providers who exercise editorial responsibility. But we think there needs to be a basic set of rules because of the importance of these platforms, in particular in order to protect minors and to tackle hate speech. The Commission recognizes the important role of video sharing platforms and proposes self-regulation in the field of hate speech and protection of minors. While this can be a valuable instrument, we believe that national regulatory authorities should have the means to intervene if self-regulation does not work. But the central weakness of the Commission proposal is to put forward full harmonization in this field. Given the dual nature of audiovisual media services as economic and as well as cultural services, the directive relies on minimum harmonization, allowing member states to adopt more detailed and stricter rules with a view to national specificities and sensitivities. This rationale should also apply to video sharing platforms. And another question, of course, is the definition of these platforms. We think that platforms which play a significant role in the distribution of audiovisual content should not be excluded. It's actually quite interesting to look at recent media consumption figures, and these figures show that video consumption is not only dominant on YouTube, it has become key on all popular social media platforms. On Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, watching video ranks among the top 3 user actions. And on Facebook, watching video is now even the second most prevailing activity, ahead of reading a news story or commenting a post. So that is quite interesting to see how this has developed. Now my last point, cross-border access to content. Interestingly, Recital 40 of the Audiovisual Media Services Directive proposes to give increased access to political news programs. And of course, we much support this idea. But in order to do so, we need the right European copyright framework. Obtaining all the necessary licenses implies a highly intensive and complex administrative process. A major broadcaster such as the ZDF, for example, negotiates roughly 70,000 contracts per year with right holders. Simple and effective licensing mechanisms are a crucial instrument to ensure that all rights are appropriately cleared. We therefore think that the Commission proposal in this respect is a good proposal. Very importantly, and as proposed by the European Commission, contractual freedom must be maintained. The proposal is also in line with territoriality, a principle which is at the heart of the content funding model. Now to conclude, I'd like to say that the right digital single market policies can support access to diverse European content. They have done so in the past. There's a great potential now in the proposed reviews, and with some adjustments, these policies can make a real difference to the European audiovisual value chain. And with their sustained investment in content and constant innovation of services for their audiences, public service media are a key player in this context. Thank you.